Hello and welcome again to another episode of One Starfish, where our mission is to help change the world one person or one starfish at a time. As always, guys, make sure to rate, review, subscribe, share, all the things. Is how we get the word out about what we do. I'm excited for our guest today. Sydney and I actually just met through Instagram through a mutual friend of ours. And so this is the first time meeting her. She's a content and messaging strategist specializing in helping moms with their businesses, which is pretty cool. I'm sure there's a lot of moms listening, or some moms, you probably want to share this. But great to have her. She started this business about 5 years ago while her husband was deployed with 3 kids, or something in that order. And so that's pretty cool. Welcome to the show, Sydney.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. Well, let's get into things. What got you into, I know you said while your husband deployed, you're like, oh, let's start a business, but tell us a little bit more why you picked this business and what made you feel like it was something you could do well.
Yeah, so it was honestly like an opportunity that kind of fell into my lap. My sister had just started an online nutrition coaching business,
Okay.
and I was home with my kids while my husband was gone, and my kids at the time were 6 months, 2 and 4 years old. So obviously the perfect time to start a new hobby, but I just felt like I couldn't, I don't know, I need something else to focus on other than the fact that like life was so hard without him there. Somewhere else to like put my energy into. And so my sister started this business and I was like, "Hey, what if I just like made some posts for your Instagram for you?" I had taken some like online marketing courses and I was like, I could probably help out. It gives me something to do and something to focus on. And it just kind of grew from there. People started seeing her content and asking to work with me, asking if I could do theirs as well. Um, yeah,
Wow. So just kind of like organic, almost, I guess you could say.
yeah.
What were some of the challenges that you feel you had to overcome in your first year of starting the business?
There was definitely a learning curve. I feel like a lot of the marketing space is like you can learn it like from a course or whatever, but not a lot of it makes sense until you actually do it and figure out what works for each individual person.
Mhm.
And then, of course, a lot of internal business stuff like figuring out when I was going to actually get work done with 3 kids and my husband being gone.
Right. And so how did you overcome some of those challenges?
I was really lucky. I went to go stay with my parents because my kids were so young. And this was also like during COVID, like shortly after we could like leave and like go places. So, we had just moved to a new state that I had never been to before, so I didn't have any support there. So my parents let me come home and stay with them for a while so they could help out with the kids, which was really nice because they have always lived so far away because we move so often. So they got to spend some time with the kids while they were young.
Right. So good for them. Did you have a lot of people that like, was everyone super supportive, or do you have people that are like, what are you doing?
Definitely got some what are you doing? Like, are you crazy kind of stuff. But yeah, I don't think I would have been able to do it had I not had the support from my family and like childcare and all the things.
It's cool. And then where do where has it kind of gone? And you got into specializing with moms, and how have you found it? And what are some, maybe a couple tangible tips that you would give someone if they're in online marketing? I guess that's kind of what you're doing, content and messaging that people do. Maybe, I don't know what wrong is the right word, but like, what do you see as some of the major mistakes that people do when they're doing that kind of content and messaging? And
Yeah, I think the biggest one is feeling like you have to do all the things on all the platforms, or just like copying trends endlessly. You don't have to do that. It's actually, I think, better if you don't do that. You have to really know like who you're talking to, before you do anything else. Like when I was doing my sister's account and I had like a couple other accounts to manage, it took a while for me to start posting for my own business. But once I did, I found like a completely different market. I wasn't just doing random businesses that were friends and stuff. It happened to be a bunch of moms that followed me because they saw I was a mom of 3 young kids running a business and they're like, how do you do it? So learn who you're talking to specifically, who you're attracting, and then make sure you're creating content for them and not necessarily for trends in the algorithm.
Hmm. And how would you, I mean, I guess it's pretty obvious if you had moms, you knew they were moms, but sometimes how do you know who you're actually attracting?
Um, if you are getting engagement on your content, I would have like more conversations with them and ask questions and see what they're interested in, what their lives are like, what how they feel about the things you're posting about.
Hmm.
And you can do some market research that way.
Okay. And, you said that there's been some changes and routines and social, before we got on. What did you mean by that?
Yeah, when I first started and I just strictly did Instagram like account management, it was a lot easier to get views and sales and like consistent clients from Instagram alone. But there have been so many changes in both like the online business space and in the algorithm itself that you really have to kind of pivot and make sure you're including other platforms and working with like email marketing and like long form content as well so that you can have a really effective marketing strategy.
And so what are some routines that people need to set up in order to make that happen?
Definitely have an email list for starters and make sure that your Instagram or any social media platform content is kind of reiterating the things you're saying in your email content or your blog or your podcast, wherever else you're showing up, because we're seeing that we need a lot more touch points with people and trust before they're going to commit to buying or signing on for anything. So the more you can reiterate those messages with your concrete messaging, not just following trends for the sake of it, is going to be very helpful.
So what do you mean by that? Like more touch points?
More interactions with people. The more they see your content, the more they read your emails. We need more of that because so many people are very skeptical after like the big online business boom of 2020, and just kind of an overwhelm of like marketing online in general. The more people interact with you, the more likely it is they will purchase down the line.
So doing more than one. And so for someone that is a mom and doing this, what were some tips that you give them to be able to navigate it all? You had some help with your parents, which is super helpful, but a lot of moms don't. So what are some things that you would say that could help them like just listen to that? You got to like market in all these different areas, do all this stuff. It sounds a little overwhelming. How do you make it less overwhelming?
Plan out like one core message for like your week or your month, however often. I feel like sometimes I'm able to plan like a month at a time, and sometimes it's just a couple days. You got to like give yourself a lot of grace and then do your one big email or blog post or whatever and just repurpose that. Pull out little bits for posts when you can. I would focus much more on like long form content and email marketing than I would social media. I honestly was really busy the last 2 weeks. We used to homeschool and my kids just transitioned to public school and I haven't posted to my own account for like 2 weeks, which is really probably not like a good look for a content strategist. But I honestly, my goal is always to like be there for my family first. So that just took the back burner and I was still sending emails. I still have my own podcast going out. So I was still making sales without Instagram. So don't feel like you have to do all the things all the time if you can't. Focus on the more like high converting things like long form content and email marketing.
That's cool. And where do you see, I guess all this stuff, do you have like a crystal ball? Do you know where it's going with some of these things? I mean, some people say a lot of, I don't know, there's all kinds of stuff that goes on out there. What do you see for like social media specifically as far as advertising? Are people converting more from like Instagram to TikTok or, anything like that? Do you have any thoughts on any of that?
I think it's gonna get harder and harder, honestly, to sell just from social media because people are just so inundated with online marketing there, and it's can be really overwhelming and also leads to a lot of skepticism because we've also seen this weird trend where people post like fake claims about things products and services can solve that are just like not quite true. Like I was looking into buying an online course for my business and went to the sales page and all of the testimonials. If you look up like the names of the people that gave the testimonials, none of them actually existed. So you have to
Oh,
be, yeah, you have to be very careful. And if you are a business owner, make sure you're like tagging people if you are giving testimonials so people know that like this is a real person I actually helped. It can help
wow.
build a lot of that trust. But yeah.
Holy, that's not cool. Good job doing your homework. And I can see that there's a lot of yeah, there's just a lot of skepticism on all of it, I guess you could say. Um, and then, are as far as you go, what's your plan for your business?
Um, Now that my kids are in school, I'm hoping to expand it a little bit, and to be have the capacity to like take on more one-on-one clients. We saw like a big boom in like digital resources, but a lot of it ended up being things people made using like AI, and it's another way that like people are feeling very skeptic. So I think we're going to see a big shift to more like done with you kind of work or done for you kind of work in online businesses or businesses in general. So I'm hoping to, yeah, take on more clients that way.
What are your feelings on AI and social media and content and all of that kind of stuff?
I have such mixed feelings because on the one hand, as like a super busy person, I completely understand wanting to use these tools to like make life easier. But
Mhm.
I think it also tends to have people like over rely on it for content, and we lose a lot of that messaging that kind of makes us authentic and shows our uniqueness in like the online space when there are so many businesses doing so many things and it's so easy to blend in. So I would always recommend using it as like a tool and not the entire strategy. Like it's very appealing to like go to ChatGPT and ask it to be like, oh, write a month's worth of content for me. But if you are saving time by doing that, but it's not actually helping your business, I don't think it's worth the effort.
And do you think it doesn't help? I've heard
I
mixed stories on this, so I'm curious.
Yeah, I think it really depends on how you're using it. Um, I always recommend reading and rereading and like being so specific in what you want it to do. Like you have to have your own plan going in beforehand, otherwise it doesn't give you the best results.
And as you're going through some of this stuff, are you working with a coach or have you worked with some people or just kind of figuring out yourself?
I've worked with coaches in the past, yeah. Not
So,
currently, but I have in the past.
and how did you feel about investing in yourself, maybe when you weren't doing so well financially?
It's like, yeah, it's a really hard decision to make. And thankfully the coach that I did work with was really like nice about it because I've heard some horror stories about other coaches who were like really pushy on sales calls and stuff. But it worked out really well. I felt super comfortable after like a couple of calls with this person. So yeah, if you that is something you're looking into, make sure, you're having lots of conversations beforehand. It's always um yeah, it's always hard, especially when it's like someone from the internet that you probably haven't met before.
Yeah, and then how did you feel though, like, and how did I mean, your hubby, I guess, too, what did he feel about you? Like I said, a lot of times people have a hard time spending money. They say, I don't want to spend money because I'm not making money. Did you have that mindset? And if so, like, how did you work through that?
hmm I think it was a little different for me because I had this like one sector of my business that was like the complete social media management, like not for moms. And the thing that I hired the business coach for was to help me make a membership specifically for moms. So to me, they were kind of like two different sections with two different audiences. So I kind of used like, I had the money coming in from management and used that to pay for the coach.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, my husband has always been like really supportive and on board and was like, yeah, go for it.
That's cool. And before that, like you weren't working at all, I'm guessing, with the three kids that were under
Correct.
four.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Before that, though, like coming out of high school and stuff, did you have a job? And if so, like what did you do before you started having kids?
Yeah, I actually worked at the college I went to for a little while, in the financial aid office. I had like a weird array of jobs, because I actually went to school for English.
Okay.
Um, and then I joined AmeriCorps, which is kind of like the Peace Corps, but you do stay in the States, and they sent me to South Carolina, and I was teaching in a school there, and that's
Oh,
actually where I met my husband.
okay.
Um, yeah.
So nothing to do with what you did. So what got you into social media at all? Like, well, why that? Like, I mean, you said you went to help your sister with, but were you already doing some, or is that literally like, you know what, I could probably help you. I see what you're doing and I'm bored.
Yeah, it was literally just like, I bet I could do this, and then took some courses.
Oh, wow. And then you just that was what transition. That's really cool. So
Yeah.
you never know where you're going to start a business. If you're listening to this, just try things.
Yeah.
I love that. I mean, who knows where it's going to go? So many people are scared to try things, or it's not in their niche or their whatever circumstance, so they're scared to do that. Your parents, are either one of them entrepreneurs?
No, nope, not at all.
You're the first.
Yes.
Cool. There's got to be always a first in the family. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's really neat. And so if someone was listening to this, what are some things that you would tell them if they're similar to where you're at and maybe they're wanting to do something, but they don't really know where to begin, or, they have a business, but they don't really know where to start, like on social media or content creation or anything like that. Where would someone start?
Um, I would start kind of doing research about like what other people are posting about in your niche, and figure out how you can make that unique to you, and how like your specific audience. Just as an example of, just in case that didn't quite make sense, like I for myself, I would look up to see like what people are talking about on like content marketing in general, and then find a way to make it specific to moms, since that's who I work with. How can I make something like this, with my own strategies, really helpful to my audience? And then I also actually have a free content map if you are interested. It's called the Buyer Journey Content Map, that gives you kind of a play-by-play of how to share content through over like multiple platforms, and have it connect with each other.
Oh, cool. Well, let's have that in the show notes. And obviously, guys, if you want a content creator or anything like that, this is what Cindy does. So her information will be in the show notes. Definitely reach out to her and ask any questions or see if there's a fit also for that line of work for sure. Um, Very, very neat. In wrapping up, I always have three final questions, and then anything we didn't touch on that you think would be really impactful for our listeners. So first and final question is, if someone's looking for their purpose, what's one sentence you could say that could help them find it?
Oh, that's a really good question, and really hard to answer.
Especially in one sentence.
I know. Finding your purpose. Yeah, the first thing that comes to mind is like, do a lot of internal thinking or journaling. I feel like it takes a while to get there, to get to like the actual heart of it. But, lots of reflection.
And I'm wondering, because listening to you, what are your thoughts on this? I don't know if you've said you found your purpose or not, but you found something you're good at. And I think sometimes people think that they have to find their purpose before they do anything. You just started doing something that I don't believe you thought was your purpose. So sometimes just doing things lead you to what you're good at also,
Yeah,
kind of thing. Hmm.
I think that's super
Yeah.
true. Because like I started just to have a business, and then really got into more like working with moms, and realizing it was a much needed space, because so many of us are at home with
Hmm.
kids, because like, I don't know, childcare is really expensive, but we still want to be able to contribute to the family. So it kind of found my purpose through my business, but I didn't start with it in mind for sure.
That's good. I love that. Second question, what's a favorite quote and why?
Another really good question. Uh, I think I like the quote. I'm trying to remember it now. It might not be super accurate. But it's like Walt Whitman, and it's something about being curious instead of like judgmental. I'm butchering it for sure. But I think a lot of times, especially in like the social media space, it's very easy to have like quick reactions to things
Mm,
and get a little more judgmental than we should be instead of curious and asking like, I wonder why they're saying it this way.
mm. And third question, what's one word or one sentence you'd want on your gravestone?
Hopefully something about being like compassionate or helpful. I would hope someone would think to put that on there.
Well, now if anyone's listening and you know Sydney,
Yeah.
keep this in mind. All right.
Sending this to
Cool.
my husband.
Yeah, here, I want you to listen to this podcast. Just listen to the end. Um, that's awesome. I love it. And so you're running some in the coffee shop, they listen to this, they're working on content creation, getting into routines, not being hard on themselves, all that stuff we touched on. What's something we didn't touch on though that you think is really impactful for our listeners?
I think having a plan, even though it seems daunting to do, having like a full-on marketing plan is so important, even though it takes a lot of time. And I know a lot of people are strapped for time. In the end, it's super, super helpful to map out like where your audience is starting now, figuring out their buyer journey, like making sure they're aware of the problem they're having, making sure that your content is showing that, and then guiding them through it. So they can eventually work with you.
I love that. Cool. So guys, make sure to share this, especially if you know some moms that are working on content creation, building businesses, and there is a lot of them at stay-at-home moms doing different kinds of businesses. This is a person to follow and to learn from. So make sure to connect. If we can go out there, if we can help one person or one starfish at a time together, we can help change the world. Thanks for being on, Sydney.
Thank you.